Starting in 2025, a higher limit on retirement plan catch-up contributions will be in place for ages 60 to 63. But while this benefit could help more Americans save for retirement, more than half of workers feel behind on their retirement savings, according to Bankrate. So what do you need to know to help make your golden years golden? Vanguard Head of Participant Experience, Dina Caggiula joins us now. Dina, great to have you here. First and foremost,
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. A lot of people are trying to think through this daunting saving for retirement process, and when they get behind the eight ball, it feels impossible to reverse course here. What are some of the early strategies that they can implement in order to do so and get back on the right track?
Sure. So there's really a three-step recipe for success here. It's understand your plan provisions, choose a comfortable contribution rate, and then lastly, select an appropriate investment strategy. So for understanding your plan provisions, you want to ask questions like, is there an employer contribution that's available? What's the fund lineup that's available to me? And what are the vesting schedules? And then for choosing a contribution rate, Vanguard recommends saving between 12 and 15%, but we know not everybody can do that, right? So you want to at least take advantage of that employer match. And then lastly, for selecting an investment strategy, if you're younger, you have a long time horizon. So you can afford to take a little bit of risk here, and you should because you want to accumulate wealth. But as you near those retirement ages, you're going to want to be a little bit more conservative with that asset allocation. And the good news is plan design will help you. So most plans now are offering professionally managed asset allocations through target date funds or even access to managed accounts like advice.
And so with that in mind, I mean, there's so much of the early career saving that's necessary to kind of set the tone for your saving strategy. How can people who are just getting into the workforce, because this is multi-generational, right? When we think about
Absolutely.
where and how people are saving, a lot of people are along different paths in that savings mechanism. So for those who are just getting into the workforce or early in their employee matching contributions, how can they set the tone and set themselves up correctly?
Sure. So for the younger generation, what we're seeing is they have a lot of competing priorities that are getting in the way of saving for retirement. And so we're here to help them to remove those competing priorities. The two largest are first addressing high interest debt. So you want to put a plan in place to help you to tackle any of that high interest credit card debt or student loan debt. We have a $1.7 trillion student loan crisis in this country. And then second, you want to make sure you have sufficient emergency savings, because if an emergency arises, that could really get you off track for retirement. And Vanguard thinks about that in two tiers. So tier one emergency savings, you want to have 2 to 4 weeks of living expenses set aside for those emergencies like an appliance breaks or your car breaks down. And then second tier emergency savings is 3 to 6 months of living expenses if you're able to. And that's for those more costly emergencies, maybe a job loss in the household, for example.
And while we're talking about different generations being at different parts of their retirement savings pathway, I mean, there's a critical new section of the law under Section 109 where it's going to impact people who are 50 and older and the type of catch-up contributions they can make as well. What do people need to know about that provision and how they can effectively put that as part of their strategy too?
Sure. So this one's a bit complex, so stay with me. But today, if you're age 50 or older, you can make a catch-up contribution. That's $7,500 in addition to the 402G limit of $23,000. That's pre-tax into your 401k. The new Secure Act provision that will go in effect January 1st of 2025 will actually increase that for those ages 60 to 63, and it's going to be the greater of $10,000 or 150% of that current contribution limit. And so I would say, the great news here is this is an example of where retirement providers like Vanguard and policymakers have come together to find new and creative ways to get employees to save more. We definitely encourage folks to take advantage.
And so all of these things in mind, what are you finding for the number of people that are trying to ensure that their retirement savings are able to outlast or able to last them throughout their retirement? How more broadly are we standing now versus what the perception is?
Yeah, I mean, here's the great news. Plan design has evolved so much over the last decade. And so we see that almost 60% of plans are actually auto-enrolling their participants or their employees. And that's leading to an 86% participation rate. So that's the great news. The not so great news is that not everyone is saving enough for retirement. And so you really got to sit down and look at your budget, zoom out and find where can I maybe reduce some expenses. Now that might be something small that maybe you can do, like decreasing the number of Starbucks trips that you make in a week, or it could be something larger, like paying off that high interest debt that might be getting in your way of freeing up dollars for retirement.
All right. That almost felt like a personal attack on the Starbucks visits. However, I took that into
That's
control
me.
myself. Thank you so much.
Me and you both, Brad.
Thanks. Vanguard Head of Participant Experience, Dina Caggiula. Thanks so much.
Thank you.